that's Chrome that show.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and a very, very warm welcome to the Futuna Chapel this evening on a glorious Karori Wellington day. Beautiful, beautiful evening, as I'm sure you'll all agree. My name is Ian Pike, and I'm the chair of the Futuna Chapel Trust, having recently assumed that position as recently as December. So I think this is my first engagement as welcoming to an event. Speaking of events, the chapel hosts enormous number of events and a very eclectic series of events. And in the paraphrasing the immortal words of George Orwell, all events are equal, but some are more equal than others. And I think this one fits into the latter category, because it's a very, very special event for several reasons. First, it is the first time we have hosted the Italian Design Day, so that's very important for us. Secondly, we have a wonderful lineup of speakers, which we're really looking forward to hear later on. And third, because it's a wonderful opportunity to welcome the new Italian ambassador to New Zealand, recently appointed, His Excellency Cristiano Maggipinto. So a very warm welcome to this space. So I want to just say a few things before handing over to the MC for the evening. I do want to thank Carolina Izzo, especially for this evening. Carolina is a freshly minted trustee, came on the trust just in December of last year, and she has a long history with the chapel. She refurbished the Christ figure behind me, and also had some involvement in a refurbishment way, I think, with regard to the Stations of the Cross, yes. And so we really thank you, Carolina, for this initiative and, of course, for the management that you've done and carried out over the last few weeks to bring this together. So thank you. As we speak, something is happening on the oceans of the world that's very important to the chapel. So the year is a big one for the chapel. We are going to re-roof replace the roof, which is the second time that's been done. It was obviously done originally, and we've replaced the roof once, and now this year we'll see the replacement of the roof for the second time. So in our quest to find the appropriate materials and so on, we looked around the world to find what would be appropriate and bring back the original as close to the original as possible. And of course, where else would you find the highest quality of tiles but in Italy? So the tiles are on the ocean as we speak. They're sailing here and are due to arrive in a month or so. So you can kind of tell that our connections with Italy are growing almost week by week. So we're going to have a physical connection because of the new tiles on the roof. We clearly have a spiritual connection. And tonight, there's a third connection that's going to take place, because the chapel is going to turn into sort of something in that wonderfully Italian tradition of the Roman Forum, where matters of state were discussed. And that's what's going to happen tonight when our panel talk about an incredibly interesting subject, particularly at this very interesting geopolitical time, which is the fractures of humanity and how they may be mended. So we'll hear those issues will be discussed and dissected, and I'm really looking forward to that, and as are you, of course, by being here. So that's a pretty interesting evening to look forward to, and there'll be some food and beverages at the close of the evening. I'm going to hand over now to the MC for the evening, who is someone known to very many of you, Nick Bevan. He was the chair of the Futuna Chapel Trust for in excess of 15 years, and has done a wonderful job over that time, and he's going to take us through the formalities of the evening. And so I hand over to you, Nick. Welcome.
Thanks, Ian. Well done for your first public appearance on behalf of the Trust. The score sheet will be circulated later. Yes, my role tonight is really to do the housekeeping, which includes ironing sometimes. But for tonight, I really need to point out, most importantly, that outside the chapel we have a roadway that the 66 houses that are part of this Futuna Close utilise. And only last year it was changed from 20 kilometres per hour to 10 kilometres per hour. So I just want you to be mindful that it is a roadway, so when you spill out in this lovely evening that you don't interfere with any of the residents' cars. in terms of earthquake, you are in a building that was built in 1961, designed by John Scott in 1958. And we had the building assessed some years ago by a seismic engineer, Wynne Clark, a very senior heritage seismic engineer, and he found that the building was between 70 and 80% of the new building standard post-Christchurch. So whilst I could say you're in a very safe building, in the extremely unfortunate and unlikely event of an earthquake, please drop, cover and hold. And when the shaking stopped, we'll move outside onto the grassed area. And also we have a toilet facility here within the chapel. So that's the housekeeping. I also want to, as well as His Excellency Ambassador, your wife Tamara is here tonight, and your colleagues and staff from the Italian Embassy. I know Valeria's been working very closely with Carolina and others, but I also wanted to make a special welcome to one of the New Zealand's most recent NZIA gold medalists. Hugh Tennant of Tennant Brown is also here tonight. Hugh was awarded, along with his partner Ewan Brown, was awarded the NZIA gold medal, which is the highest accolade you can receive in New Zealand, earlier this month. And it's a wonderful coincidence because in 1999, the architect of this chapel, John Scott, was awarded a gold medal. And it was awarded posthumously, but it was the first gold medal awarded to an architect. Previous to that, the New Zealand Institute of Architects awarded gold medals to buildings. And you'll see that gold medal awarded in, I think, 1968 to John Scott and Len Hoogerbrook on the building as you leave. So, kia ora, Hugh, welcome. We look forward to your contributions later this evening. No pressure. So it's my pleasure to introduce the first presenters this evening, and because they are tangata whenua, or from Wellington, it'll be Nick and Ben from First Light Studio. Now, I won't go into a long introduction about them and their work, because I think a lot of you will be familiar with it, and if you're not, you will be after you've watched their presentation. But I must recall the time I visited the First Light Studio house that was constructed for a solar house competition, international solar house competition, and you took it to America and you came third. Not bad. For a little country punching above its weight. And it was a great house to visit when it was on the waterfront. And Guy Marriage is also here in the audience, and Guy was instrumental in that exercise at the university as well. So enough from me. I think it's now time that we give a warm welcome to Nick and Ben from First Light Studio.
Kia ora koutou, ka mihi ka kia koutou, Italian Embassy, me Futuna Chapel Trust. Ka mihi o kia koutou nā wahine o āKAU. Ko tangata tiriti o, and ko Nick taku ingoa. I guess I just wanted to start tonight by further acknowledging the space and the wairoa, or the wairua, the spirit of it. I think it's really special and appropriate tonight, given the topic of conversation, but a real illustration of how profound an effect architecture can have on how we live our lives, not just our surroundings, but the way we meet, greet, speak, live. And it's really it's an honour to I'm pretty humbled to stand up here on the stage and speak with many of you who I have a lot of respect for as well. So my name's Nick and this is Ben, and we're two of the co-founders of First Light. my job is pretty simple tonight. I just get to introduce us, and I think I've got 3 slides. So pretty easy before I pass you over to Ben, who's going to talk a little bit more about our work and how that's relevant to the conversation tonight. I think community is fundamentally it's about connection. And so I thought I could introduce us with a little game of connection, and that's there's a game called High Low Buffalo. You can play it with your kids or your friends, but it's just sharing something about your day or your lives that's both a high, something that's low, and something that's, I guess, a buffalo, or something that's a bit of an outlier, something a bit strange. And before I do that, I just want to introduce and recognise our team, our community. So these are the people that are, part of what we do every day and are fundamental to what, Ben will share later today and what we've achieved to date. And without them, some of whom are here today, we wouldn't be able to stand up here and celebrate this with you. First really thanking everyone that's here, and if not, here in spirit. So I want to start with a high. So this was probably our highest of highs, and as Nick alluded to, it was the first lighthouse, which was built in 2011 and taken to Washington, DC. But it's really our DNA for who we are today, sort of 13, 14 years later. It's a small, smart house. It's sustainable, it's high performance, it's healthy. And it was designed to tell the story of what it meant to be a New Zealand piece of architecture, or what a New Zealand home could be. And we celebrated it, and it was celebrated. It came third, and it was recognised, for what it was. And we returned with it to New Zealand, and that was, maybe where our low came. But I like sharing this photo just because it's I don't want to say an overreaction, but it's the feeling of, what architecture can mean to us, and what good buildings or good design, or what our homes, how they can make us feel.
This is us after practice completion.
This is us winning this is us reaching a podium, but it was really kind of the high. The low was coming back, and through all the anxiousness of starting at practice very young, it was that the recognition that one really, really great house wasn't enough to kind of outweigh the tens or hundreds of thousands of bad ones that were here. So that was our fire, I suppose. It lit the fire for us. It inspired us to do what we do today, and it is our mahi. It's what drives us. And then something interesting about us, Ben and I took our relationship a little bit further, from business partner to neighbours in 2019, just before COVID, or during COVID. We wanted to kind of test some of these ideas of community and challenge the notion of community, and pull down the fences, and see how architecture could work, and our houses and how we design them could work together as community. So this project over 3 years, between our families that lived on the site, we made 4 children, of which our boys became best friends. I think our relationship strengthened, and we pulled a lot of this just through the way that we arranged houses on a piece of land. So while I acknowledge the position of privilege we were in when we did this, it's some of the lessons that we learnt through this we hope to bring through a lot of our other work, and sort of a continuation of our architectural journey. So that's me. I'm going to pass you over to Ben, who will talk to you about a couple of projects that we've been working on more recently. But again, thank you all for coming to hear us speak.
Kia ora koutou. Thanks, Nick, for that. You can come stand up. No. As Nick said, it's an honour to be here in this beautiful space. I had the honour of being the Wellington convener for the Wellington Architecture Awards, and today was our first day of judging. So I've had a day of looking at beautiful buildings and spaces, and so to end it here is pretty special. But today, 2 of the houses and the architects talking both mentioned being inspired by John Scott in the details. So it's amazing to see how his work and his ideas are still so relevant in the work of architects in Wellington. The first project that we would like to talk about is a project that we've been working on with Te Āhuru Mōwai, which is the largest Māori-owned community housing provider in New Zealand, and is committed to playing a part in transforming our communities and lives of opportunities of whānau in Wellington, especially in Porirua, eastern and western Porirua. I think we're zoomed in on these slides. Here we go. This is the state of play for them at the moment. They are in charge of managing 922 homes within the Porirua region. And of those homes, about 811 of them are defined as being in a poor condition. So that's 88% of those homes. So if we're talking about the fractures of humanity, this is a great example of what they're dealing with. People lacking that fundamental human right of living in a warm, comfortable, healthy home. Te Āhuru Mōwai really are working really hard to make a change within this community, and it's not just about creating new social houses for them, but a much bigger vision about creating community and transforming the lives in general of their people. And so their journey started with this vision framework, which is a document that builds upon the collective mahi of everyone at Te Āhuru Mōwai, but also the work of so many others, and lays down the foundation of the ideas that they want to implement over the next 5, 10, 20 years in the region. Whaia te iti kahurangi ki te tuahu koe me he maunga tai tai. So seek the treasure that you value most dearly. If you bow your head, let it be a lofty mountain. So this vision framework is Te Āhuru Mōwai's lofty mountain, and it sets a pretty amazing vision for the future of their homes. What the vision framework talks about is the of te wharitapa whā, so the kind of Māori view of health and well-being, and it's something that's really inspiring to us and we can relate to as architects, being the four walls of a wharinui. It's very architectural, but also these ideas are what we are inspired to create within our buildings. So ideas like taha tinana, so about physical well-being, that our homes are accessible for everybody. About taha hinengaro, about mental and emotional well-being, that they're designed to capture light, to be warm and comfortable, and to inspire our how we live in our homes. Taha whānau, being designed for multiple generations, for our elders, for our children, for everybody. And then taha wairua, which is that intangible element that exists in architecture, and it exists a lot in this building, the bit that we can't really talk about, but the spirit of a place. And all of that being grounded in the whenua. The vision framework sets out a bunch of key moves, so knowing your neighbour, so getting to know community on a micro level, but also stitching Western and Eastern Porirua together. It's about feeling the sea breeze, so connecting us with the moana and our water and our rivers, and that being a really important part of our land and where we live. Hear the call of the birds, so connecting with the maunga, with whitireia, and connecting green spaces within our urban environments. Sow seeds, grow community, so focused development on areas that are close to neighbourhoods and urban centres. And creating a home, not a house, which is where we come in a way, about creating healthy homes that are warm, dry and comfortable for people to live in, that don't cost a lot of money to run. And there's lots of sort of fundamental ways that we can achieve these quite lofty and wordy ideals. Things like bringing in shared space and urban play within our master plans to know your neighbour, or focusing on regenerative design or sustainability, good wayfinding and signage, and making spaces that are safe to live in, and focusing on density and intergenerational living. And then in terms of the home itself, making sure that it's well insulated, it's warm and comfortable and healthy. Sorry for the scrolling, actually. I don't know how that has happened, but there we go. But all of that means it's about people first. So often we architects often come in after the master plan has been done, and we were kind of engaged to do some master planning for Te Āhuru Mōwai based on this vision framework. And we sort of said to them it was really difficult for us to actually do the master planning before we understand what the home is, because it's about the people first and how they live. So the first thing we did was end up designing a set of housing typologies that we could use to actually master plan. But I love this. He aha te mea nui o te o. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata. What is most important in this world is it's people, it is people. I mean, just a little bit of the state of play. This is kind of what we're dealing with in the medium density kind of space as well, and this is kind of the downside of some of these new regulations to do with medium density, in that you get houses that are often stacked together next to each other with very little connection between them, very small outdoor space, pretty low performance as well. So that's kind of not what we wanted to achieve in terms of our urban design. So starting with the housing typology, we wanted to create something that was simple, that was repetitive, affordable to build, but captured the key values of the vision framework. So it had to be connected to the ground. The living areas and the dining spaces had to be connected to the outside on two sides, so not like the typical townhouse, which just has an entry on one side and an outdoor space on the other. And that gives us flexibility when we're laying out homes. You can go, when you live in it, you've got the sunny side, you can be protected from the wind, but it's dual-sided. Creating homes that have an accessible bedroom on the ground floor as a must, and an accessible bathroom, so there's some flexibility with who lives in there. It's not just a percentage of the homes that are accessible, they can all be on the ground floor. The single-level homes all up have a large kitchen, so designing with whānau in mind, that you can host dinner parties in your one-bedroom house. It's not just a small compact kitchen, a separate laundry and a toilet. But these spaces that are flexible, that allow curtains to come across to allow sleeping spaces for multiple family members, that there's a consciousness about taha wairoa, about the spiritual element. If there was a tangi held on, that there's a curtain that's able to be pulled apart that's separate from the kitchen, but it still allows the home to function. And so this creates our one-bedroom home, which is kind of the base of our typology mix. And from that, we use that ground floor to create a range of different floor plans. So that's the base, and then for a two-bedroom, we can add a bedroom on the ground floor. Great if you wanted a carer living in. You've got a three-bedroom house, which turns the bathroom into a set of stairs, and then bedrooms above. A four-bedroom as well with a second living, 5 and 6. So you're catering for all the different typologies, but using a very standardised set of floor plan arrangements, which then allows us to master plan the sites relatively quickly and efficiently, and get to a point that Te Āhuru Mōwai can do feasibility studies on sites quickly, knowing that they've got a set of parameters which work for the housing, for the people that want to live it in the end. And then there's efficiencies when it comes to construction in the way that these are put together, because it gives you opportunities to weave in prefabrication and more affordable means of construction. But how that's applied in 3 dimensions is really important as well, because you don't want something that's just repetitive and standardised. You want to build a building form that is flexible enough that it can be put together in a wide variety of different ways and create these quite unique urban configurations that are not bland, they're very individual, very customised for the individual. So we can do that by alternating the claddings or alternating roof forms or just putting different typologies next to each other. And you can get a wide range of different exterior forms and materiality. And then after developing this typology, in close consultation with Te Āhuru Mōwai, we applied it to a site in Te Tahi Bay. This is Dimmock Street. It's a suburban arrangement that we see all over the country. It's a place that is associated with a lot of negative kind of social interaction. Since we have been working on this job, there has been 2 arsons and a murder in this area. So it's a place that is quite scary at the moment. And a lot of that comes down to the housing typology mix that's up there. The majority of it is one-bedroom homes. Most of it is social housing. There's no mix. So there's a lot of people that are isolated, a lot of people that are struggling with mental health, all living together, and it creates this kind of cacophony of, social unrest. And so this first project is about kind of bringing change in this area. But it's an area that's got a really strong cultural significance to Ngāti Toa, being close to Whitireia Maunga and the coastline. But like a lot of New Zealand, has just been planned with social housing all over it. This particular site, when we were master planning it, we wanted to map where the existing awa and rivers were and how they ran through the site, and that's where the flooding happens, so that's where our floodplains are as well. But there's opportunity to daylight these streams and make them a part of the community. We wanted to feel the sea breeze, so look back towards Te Tahi Bay Beach and introduce green spaces where you can hear the birds call and that connect the communities together. And then use the existing kind of street network to help sow seeds and grow the community by linking these networks together and connecting to Whitireia, connecting to the hill and the coast. So we started by master planning this site. Unfortunately, this house here burnt down, and it wasn't the development manager. But the first stage is about trying to get density, to get nice houses into this location so we can really change up the mix, with the idea of master planning the whole site, which Te Āhuru Mōwai has access to. But yeah, the first stage is about making change, so it's the majority 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes to try and get that mix in there and bring whānau back into the urban context. And then for the next stages, build more houses with the same idea around a communal space that could be a park, or it could be a field, or a basketball court, or an actual building. And during these stages, we could start to bring in private homes and a mix of kind of a social demographic as well to kind of change the spot, which is actually great. On the corner here, if we were to build apartments, they look back to Te Tahi Bay. They got views of the sea, views of the South Island, so it's a pretty amazing spot. The first stage of that project has just got building consent, and we're hoping that it will start on site soon. And then we're just going through a process of designing the next stages. So that's where we're at with the first project. Hopefully I'm not taking too much time. But the second project that we want to talk about, and it's a very special project for us, is St Hilda's Church. This is a church in Island Bay on the Parade, which has had, when we got the job, an earthquake-prone brick facade, which you can see here. It was red stickered and set to close, I think, within 6 months of us getting the job. And the first thing we did was engage a structural engineer. So one of the reasons that it was red stickered is because there's a bus stop right here. So one of the first things we did was engage a structural engineer to design a system of tension wires fixed to the brick, which you can see here, which mean that the bricks fall inside the church in the event of an earthquake, not outside. So you can put your faith in God. But it gave us another couple of years of operation in order to design and fund the building. But as you can see, it was a pretty dark, dreary space, fairly unmonumental. Frederick de Jersey Cleur, who designed the church, actually had some pretty grand visions for the site. This is the original design, so fully brick, had a steeple. But as we're all familiar with the value engineering process, ended up just being a timber church with a front brick facade, which in the end was the bit that was earthquake prone, and probably blocking the views of the street and the openness to the rest of the community. But I said just before in terms of the timber, but the timber church is beautiful on the inside, The bishop was a far-seeing man. We built and we landed the parish with an £800 debt, and I'm sure we did the right thing. We gave you the nave, the only external wall brick, the framework of solid jara on concrete, and the heart of matai. And so you can see that when you go inside the church, that the timber part of it, which is probably the bit that was value engineered, is is amazing. So we wanted to accentuate that and remove the brick facade, which is a decision we didn't take lightly. Over the years, it's had lots of renovations and additions, which is kind of quite disjointed in the way that it has come together and in the architectural form. And that was part of the design brief, was to try and pull the building all together and bring back the importance to the church space itself and consider the sacredness of that space. The old church was actually seldom used. People spent more time in the hall than the rest of the buildings. It was kind of cold and dark and damp, but this is a sacred space for worship, so we wanted to, encourage that. Beauty and quality were very important to the client as well, so that it would last forever. Natural light and illumination and a connection to the outside and to the street and openness. They wanted to retain and enhance the historic features, which for us were the timber portals in the inside, evoke a sense of warmth, create a consistent language, and design for the future of the church. So a future that was more inclusive, a future that was more open to the community, a future that encouraged people encouraged everyone to be a part of this building and this space, not just the members of the Anglican Church. So the first thing we did was remove the brick facade, which was a bit of an issue within the Island Bay community, and we did get a bit of pushback and a bit of graffiti. We had on our architectural sign we put out in the front of the construction and a little blue ballpoint pen that said, "You woke heritage vandals," which was a little old man that the priest caught doing some more. So he wasn't so happy. I don't know what he thinks of it now, but it was a big call. We decided to replace that brick facade with a timber framework. We got rid of the structural issue by removing the brick, and then this allowed us to actually extend the building to the street as well. We then accentuated the weatherboards on the side and made it a hero of what it is, a beautiful weatherboard timber church with a beautiful western-faced gable end. And then we glazed that end, and it's split into 5 segments to reference back to the original stained glass window that was there previously, if you can call it stained glass, the original window. And then on front of that glass facade, our design idea was to bring this veil on the outside, a veil which provided, functionally from an architectural perspective, shading and visual privacy, but also gave the community opportunity to tell the stories of their place. So the design you can see here is just something we came up with in the renders, but the intention was that this was a community designed element that we could all do together, something that was very special and represented the place where we were designing. And then at night it could glow, as a beacon for the church in the way that the church plays in people's lives. So we ran a whole bunch of design workshops with the community, and some of the threads that were really important were around telling the story of the place, about Tapu Te Ranga and its connection to the beach and the hills, a story about the people, that it was transparent and open and a place that the congregation could come together in the interior of the church that was welcoming. And it was a spiritual space still. So it was still a spiritual place, a place of worship, a place that people could come and just be at peace. So these are some of the sketches and photos that the community brought to these sessions, and we sketched together. There was the ideas of repetition, about marking the church's place on the Te Āhuru Trail. But the idea that we kind of all came up with together was this idea of wayfinding, the act of finding one's way to a particular place or navigation, which as a church is a really important part of, what a church functions in people's lives. But also with the community of Island Bay being a seafaring kind of, place, and also the church's location on the parade as a wayfinding device on your way home, for the community. So we broke the facade down into these 4 key parts. So on the bottom, the land, the whenua, the connection to the hills on both sides, and taputeranga in the middle, and the idea that Island Bay is kind of within these 2 hills. And then at the end of Island Bay is the ocean that you look out towards, past taputeranga to the horizon, which is picked up in this repeated motif that changes as you go up the facade or up the vale. And it moves up to the sky, which is particularly important here in Wellington with the moving clouds. So there's a sense of movement and a sense of transparency as you go up. So it's closed at the bottom and moves up to being fully transparent at the top, where you can actually see through and see the structure in behind. And at the top, the stars as the wayfinding device in our lives, the past explorers, the tangata whenua of the stars, and our connection to God at the top. And so if we think about architecture as a vehicle for change, this is an earthquake-prone building that we needed to do something with to create a safe environment for the church. But, through this architectural process, we were able to remove that earthquake-prone facade and create something that was beautiful, something that was open to the community, and that encouraged, the growth of the church. And something that hopefully the little old man with the ballpoint pen now loves as a part of. But, the space is no longer dark and dreary, but bright and open and changes with the sun and the shadows throughout the day, and glows. There's so many cool little parts within the whole project, and with a community project like that in particular, like people giving their time. The aluminium supplier who laser cut the veil did that for free. People donated things. These door handles were hand whittled out of a piece of jara we reclaimed. These doors are also reclaimed jara from one of the portals. So there's lots of those kind of cool parts to it as well that you have to come and experience in person. But ultimately, the vehicle for change in this is that it's transformed the church. So since completing the renovation, we've greatly increased the use of the main church space. They now host resident associate meetings, Toastmasters, kindy groups, all sorts of events, art exhibitions, open days, and they've also started hosting gigs, and two upcoming next month, and weddings have returned after a long hiatus, so people are wanting to get married in it as well. So quite an amazing transformation to not only the building but the community as well. Thanks for having us. And now I'll pass it over to āKAU.
Thank you very much, Nick and Ben, for an extremely well-presented, curated and respectful presentation. It's really fascinating for me to see the work that you are doing and the communities that you are deeply engaging with. So I know that's hard work. So thank you very much. And now it's my pleasure to introduce āKAU Studio. Did I get that right? My pronunciation's not that good. I even had some tutorial from Hugh Tennant on that. āKAU Studio from Northland. A very vibrant practice, and one that I think was 2 or 3 years ago won the John Sutherland Practice Award. a national award given by the Institute of Architects. So it is my pleasure to introduce Joe and Gwena. I don't know which one's going to talk first, but welcome to Futuna and welcome to this event. It's all yours.
Tēnā koutou katoa, tuia ki te rangi, tuia ki te whenua, tuia ki te āKAU, o ngā tangata, ko te mea nui, ko te aroha, tihei Māori-ora. Mihi ana kia, mana whenua o te rohi te Atiawa, taranaki whānui me Ngāti Toa rangatira. Hi everybody. Just want to acknowledge the trust of the whare and say thank you to Nick Bevan and welcome to Ian. Also just want to acknowledge First Light, Ben and Nick, nei rā te mihi, and also the New Zealand Institute of Architects and everyone that's come today. Thank you for coming to listen to us. And just want to acknowledge the whare and how beautiful it is. John Scott was a rangatira of Indigenous design, and it's a real privilege and honour to be here this afternoon. Ko Joe Walsh tōku ingoa, no Kaikohe hau, ko ngā pui nui tonu tōku iwi. I am Pou Hapai at āKAU.
Kia ora, Joe. Does everyone want to just stand up for a second? I don't know about me, but I was quite grateful for that moment. Have a little shake, because, yeah, we've got a little bit of a slot and quite a few cool things to show you all. So, yeah, take a seat and get ready for it.
Are you ready now?
Yeah. Buonasera a tutti. Siamo molto felici di avere questa opportunità. Grazie all'ambasciata di Italia in Nuova Zelanda, a te Cristiano Magipunti, mi chiamo Gwena. Grazie.
Te tohu, te takau tau o āKAU. At the end of 2024, āKAU turned 10 years old. This milestone has given us a chance to slow down, pause and reflect on the haerenga that brought us here and the path that lies ahead. As part of this reflection, we've revisited some of the special kaupapa we've been part of over the years. Oh, this happened the other day. Sorry. A series of po whenua and moirua reminding whānau to be kaitiaki of their awa and te taiao. An outdoor basketball court inspired by Niho Taniwha, and bright bold flags lining the main street of Kaikohe, designed by Tai Tamariki, representing Ko Waiahau, who am I? At the centre of all these projects, each one returned mana to the people, enabling them to shape their own futures. They are acts of whakaora, restoration, of place, of identity, of equity. Over the course of this kōrero, we're going to share with you some of these learnings. But first, the story starts in Kaikohe. This is our team. The other day when we did this presentation, we didn't have a team photo, and First Light did, and I was like, quick, put a team photo in, and here we are. And I thought it was really lovely, and so it's really cool to bring our team, which is ever evolving, and in this photo you will see some of our founders as well too, Anna Hedemaya, Ruby Watson, and Felicity Brenchley. Descended from the formidable tūpuna Rahiri, Ngāpuhi is Aotearoa's largest iwi, with 184,470 people identifying as Ngāpuhi in the 2023 census. Ngāpuhi has a young demographic, with over half of them being under the age of 30 years old. However, not all of Ngāpuhi live in the tribal boundaries. The general population for Northland suggests that we are around 72,000 people, and 50% of them are Māori. As shown on this map in front of us, which represents Te Wharetapu o Ngāpuhi, these are our main maunga of our region, known as Te Tai Tokerau. We have 110 hapu and 200 marae that are made up of the social fabric of Ngāpuhi. Ngāpuhi was the first to sign He Whakaputanga, the Declaration of Independence of United Tribes, in 1835, and Te Tiriti o Waitangi in 1840. In the New Zealand Index of Multiple Deprivation, Northland measured 19 out of 20 in a list of the most deprived regions, with number 1 being the least deprived and number 20 being the most deprived. The index measures employment, income, education, access to services, crime, health and housing. For this presentation, we will mainly focus on Kaikohe, where our office is. I was lucky enough to be born in Kaikohe, ko Joe Walsh tōku ingoa, nō Kaikohe ahau. Kaikohe is known as Te Pō te Wheke, the heart of the octopus, with our maunga pūtahi raising approximately 300 metres above sea level. We are situated on State Highway 12. Tāhiki Road heads out towards Taitamatane, the west coast, and the Hokianga, where Kupe, the great navigator, landed from Hawaii discovering Aotearoa, and out on Guy Road towards Taitamawahine, the east coast, and Waitangi, the place where our founding document, Te Tiriti o Waitangi, was signed. We are famous for people like Hungi Hika, Hone Hike, and Portia Woodman, amongst others. Once a thriving town where the Queen stayed over in 1953, we're now a place that needs a whole lot of love and investment. The population of Kaikohe and Hokianga is 16,185, with 68% of the population being Māori. To reflect on the numbers I gave you previously in regard to the deprivation, this town is full of amazing, resilient, intelligent and passionate people who work very hard for their community and whānau. Okay. It is a privilege to be part of the social fabric of Kaikohe and a part of āKAU as well.
Joe and I are going to do a little dance this evening, so we'll see how this goes. āKAU was founded 10 years ago by 3 female visionaries, all from an architecture and design background. It emerged from a deep belief that design could be more. They were a bit doubtful that the architecture industry and what it represented wasn't serving the people it was meant to be. So āKAU was created to serve the Kaikohe community. What does āKAU mean? āKAU is the point where the waves meet the land. It is here where there is energy, and it is at this intersection where magic happens. If we can harness this energy, the coming together of people and ideas, we can make magic happen. Where do I fit in? My name is Gwena, and I graduated about 10 years ago with a Masters of Architecture degree down here in Wellington. Quickly got myself a great graduate job, but pretty quickly realised that the next 10 years of my life was going to be bound to a desk. And that this dream I had that architecture was about people felt way too idealistic for that time. So I lasted a couple of years, packed my bags, went overseas and tried a few different things out. Through a mutual friend, I got myself back home and connected with āKAU about 4 years ago. Where I have, since had my longest ever job. So a big part of my life question is, what does active partnership in Aotearoa actually look like? What does being tangata tiriti actually mean? In my mahi for āKAU, I get to live this question and explore it every day. I'm becoming more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And of course, every day I ask, should I be in this space? Do I belong here? But I believe it's only in this uncomfortable line, on this line, where change happens. And in the last year, during this very divisive government's rhetoric around equality, I've never experienced more welcome in marae and kura up north than ever before. and we have been having incredible open discussions acknowledging the power and importance of working together with Māori and non-Māori to achieve this. So I'm super stoked to be given the opportunity to actively live this question and support a kaupapa Māori practice who moves where its communities best need it, responding to real life needs of whānau, hapu and iwi. And my faith in the power of architecture and design has been restored.
āKAU is a not-for-profit design practice rooted in the belief that design can uplift the Māori order of people and communities. Over the years, we've developed several ways in which we achieve this. Our papa mahi, creative hands-on workshops, part of our design process that engages whānau in real projects. We advocate for tangible outcomes that give community when they have been promised so many things in the past that have never been delivered on. That might be connecting community organisations to the right funders, finding pūtea to implement our community projects, or hustling and just mucking in.
Ngā tamariki. So at the heart of our kaupapa are tamariki, or children. We talk about mokopuna decisions, and this is about that every decision we make should be made with and for our grandchildren. They have the most to gain or not from the actions we take now. We ensure that tamariki are present and participating in these spaces. Being involved in the design of tangible projects allow tamariki to dream, visualise and express their thoughts. When they see their ideas brought to life, they're learning to be innovative and confident, just like their tūpuna or ancestors did before them. They're learning more about themselves, they're hearing their own stories, and they are doing this alongside their elders and whānau. We're also looking for ways to help tamariki see themselves as designers and supporting them into the design industry and creative pathways. We have a few kaupapa to share with you that help communicate the value of designing in this particular way and some of the outcomes from this process.
In 2019, as part of the Twin Coast Discovery work with Waka Kotahi, Isthmus and the Provincial Growth Fund, āKAU was given the opportunity to speak to Tai tamariki and Kaikohe. These conversations revealed that they did not see themselves in the town that they lived, and that they wanted more colour and to see te reo Māori in their own language in the environment around them. Engaging with 4 schools, Kaikohe East, Kaikohe West, Kaikohe Intermediate and Te Kura Kaupapa Māori or Kaikohe, we had the privilege of engaging 59 papamahi, 59 tai tamariki and papamahi. As mentioned earlier, papamahi is our design process and a series of activities that guide creative outputs. In the initial activity, tamariki explored kupu, words, and whakatauki, proverbs, that resonated from within their kura vision statements. They developed a deep understanding of the information held in their language, its connected history and meaning. Using identified kupu, we discussed how we could communicate them spatially in the community while exploring materiality, colour, topography, form, shape and patterns. While the papamahi stage and engagement with the tai tamariki formed the concept of the installation, it was necessary to engage various other artists to work with us to develop the project further. While translating the ideas developed in papamahi workshops, we transformed concepts into unique styles and art forms. This allowed our team to showcase the full potential of the design. Our crew working on this were Catherine Griffith, Kyra Clark and Tash Nikora, all independent graphic designers. In stage 3, we worked with local artist Bobby McDonald to transfer the graphics from the developed design, installing them on buildings on the main street of Kaikohe. This was a huge job and heaps of learnings, and Bobby did a really excellent job. These tangible outcomes can now be seen in the main streetscape of Kaikohe. Our tamariki are so very proud of the work that they did. Through this kaupapa, tai tamariki experienced developing design using expressive skills. They built meaningful multi-generational relationships and gained new knowledge of their own self and cultural identity. Through its presence in the streetscape, there was a realisation that hokainga Māori were not reflected in the environment around them, historically, culturally, or architecturally. Te Reo Māori on the Streets has opened our hapori up to the opportunity of contributing to their town and civic projects, allowing them to voice their aspirations, telling stories and influencing projects. The project was a huge boost for our community. It was created and led up by our tamariki and contributed to the Māori order of the town. It's been a catalyst for change in attitudes and understanding, in the ability for design to put people first, and for those that design to deliver accessible public spaces. The project was featured in a nationally important exhibition alongside some of exceptional and accomplished Māori designers in 2024. Each of the Te Reo Māori on the Streets installations was portrayed in a banner series, produced and featured in Pōhiwa Pahiwa at Object Space in Tamaki Makaurau. The show was grounded in whakapapa and presented fundamental differences in how design practice is approached within Te Ao Māori and for whom it is in service to, in this case, our tamariki and hapori and Kaikohe. The banners spelt out Taonga Tuku Ihoa. Taonga Tuku Ihoa means broadly to care for and grow the treasures, knowledge, culture, art practices handed down from us by our tūpuna.
Te Puna Reo o Mangatangaroa is Aotearoa's first full immersion Te Reo Māori Early Childhood Centre in Kaikohe. This kaupapa was inspired by Whaeclera's son, Mangatangaroa, who is a tamariki, or as we say, a child with superpowers. They needed a place that not only catered for his unique health needs, but also provided a kaupapa Māori environment. Whaeclera gifted her whānau home for this project, and here we see it on the dawn ceremony opening. So Joe's spoken to papamahi or workshops. We had multiple of these for this project, for the inside and for the interiors and the landscape. Here we see a quick model after one of the landscape papamahi. We were working with the whānau of Mangatangaroa as well as parents of the tamariki who are going to come to the early childhood. And this concept looks at integrating textured surfaces into the outdoor area so that tamariki in wheelchairs could have sensory shifts as their wheels roll over different surfaces. Then these whānau concepts come back into our office where our design team develop these, and they get built with the help of whānau. 3 archways are in the landscape, which were inspired by the 3 waves that Nuku Tāwhiti arrived into the Hokianga harbour with. These 3 archways were shaped and inspired by the concept of tamataiki, which were woven balls, often remnants of hinaki or fishing nets, that used to be put in trees and be spaces that children would climb up to and practice binding and weaving. So we made them more accessible in this instance, and they became spaces that tamariki could add to and connect with. Part of the magic of this kaupapa was the whānau and hapori coming together to build this project. They collected the natural resources from the forest. They made the kupinga, or the nets you're seeing here, and locally sourced timber, made the beads, which were an extra sensory element within these archways. So we designed a multi-sensory space that weaves together the stories and the aspirations of the people who are going to be using it. The sensory space was developed with a waka and 3D wall panelling, embedding the rich stories shared with us. Within our āKAU team at the time, we had 2 junior interns supporting this project. Their graphic design skills can be seen in the colourful ceilings. This year-long intern program has been an important one for us, where youth can be immersed in real projects without moving away from home and committing to a big lot of debt. But the real issue comes that they don't really want to leave, and we've just farewelled one of our interns after 8 years, and another one is heading off after 5 years to do a double degree in Tamaki. So this is a humble project, yet the energy within this whare is immense. The whare is called Te Here o Te Aroha, the house built by love. And this kaupapa is a true testament to the power of community to create their own solutions. The community, with the direction of Whaia Clara, who we can see here holding her son, Mangatangaroa, they fundraised and pushed and built the space for tamariki that are often excluded and have nowhere to go. Whaia Clara said it best when she says, if we make it good for tamariki, we make it good for everyone and no one misses out. We now take that message through to all of our projects. Supakura, just a shout out that on Māori TV, they actually documented Mangatangaroa's journey in the building of the whare. It's a really beautiful story and shows the power of community. Strategic property plans. So across the last 2 years, we've worked with 4 kura from around Te Tai Tokerau to create strategic property plans. This project came from a real change maker within the MOE who saw an opportunity to create kura-driven master plans. So the MOE are often responding to critical issues like leaking roofs or planning sort of 5-10 years into the future. But through this approach, we were thinking longer term and considering other projects that may be funded through other avenues, but were central to the kura vision. So for some kura, it was immediate classroom need, and for others, it was state-of-the-art research centres that they wanted to support their whānau as well as wider community. So with each kura, we had a couple of sessions. With the tamariki, we had the fun creative concepts. And with the community and board, we would tap into strategic thinking and also do some site analysis, which you can see happening here, where we're getting information about the land from the people who know it way better than us. The overall feedback on this project was the power of a drawing, and they had never actually had a drawing which had all of their visions in one place. So each kura had their own set of immediate needs. Te Kura o Te Kau is Aotearoa's second most northern kura, with all age groups in a role of about 70 students. They were teaching their senior students in corridors. So classrooms were the immediate need, but also due to the location, the school's ability to host others was central to the success of their master plan, as well as having a food tech or kitchen space to support this. So here we see some concept ideas from tamariki, and here is one of the outcome drawings showing new classrooms in yellow, the gym in pink, and yeah, connecting in with some existing buildings that were going to stay put. Another kura that was part of this, we've been working for the last 1.5 years with, they are still teaching in buildings that were flooded in the 90s. Doors creak, roofs leak, toilets don't flush, it's totally below par. In the 90s, they were in absolute crisis and teaching in 3 different marae at the time when they were asked to make strategic decisions for the future of their school, and in reflection, this was not the best time to be making them. So as we've been building trust and working with this kura toward their master plan vision, there's been various comments of how they are hesitant to dream, how they have made do with what they've got, and I've even been asked, are we even allowed to dream? So the workshop and design process has really shifted and lifted some trauma from this original experience. They are applying mātauranga Māori to the design of their Māori school with a Māori education system. The outcomes on the plan have taken a lot of dedication and discussion. They have asked the question, is this really the best option for us? And in response, realised they could do better. We are in the closing stages of this work, and the proposal will go for funding in June. This project, in overview, was about building relationships and trust. Having a direct fee agreement with the school was a first step toward this. Also disengaging from Ministry of Education deadlines. We could present drawings to them, leave them with the community for as long as they needed to review and give us feedback, and it was on their time.
Over the past decade, we've refined our processes and offerings significantly so that we are spending more time on mahi where we add the most value and have the greatest impact. Our focus is on engaging whānau, hapu and iwi at the start of projects, using our papamahi process to develop conceptual narratives and giving form to this during the concept design stage. On larger projects, we partner with other architects who bring their skills and experience to deliver high-quality built outcomes, typically on tight budgets and timeframes. Our role is to ensure that the community voice continues to be heard throughout the detailed design and construction stages, in particular facilitating the incorporation of mahi toi elements in collaboration with local artists. Papa Hawaiki is a destination sports hub in Kaikohe. Stories of the site and people who once occupied it are woven into the architectural form, landscapings and surface patterning, all conceptualised with community members through our papamahi design approach. The beautifully carved āKAU at the entrance were created by toi ngāpuhi artists. We developed the design of this building through to resource consent stage, and team architects did an incredible job of staying true to the original concept as they documented the design for construction despite challenges with the budget.
Kaikohe Library. Most recently, we were included as part of an architectural team for the new Kaikohe Library, together with Eclipse Architects and GMC Architects. Positioned on the main street of Kaikohe, this building will be a hub for the community, creating a safe place for tamariki, tai tamariki and whānau together. With the obvious potential this project has for positive impact, our client agreed it was critical that community voice was included from the outset. Our role included extensive community engagement, as well as pulling together information gathered during previous consultation processes to synthesise a shared vision for what this project should become. The concepts for this kaupapa are based upon kōrero shared generously by the hapu, Te Ūrio Hoa. The design has been inspired by whakaaro developed by tamariki and hapuri during the papamahi process and elevated by the valued contribution of matua Ellen Wihungi. Oh, we've got a little spider. Vertical whenua strands wrap around the building, expressing the concept of Te Āhuru. Vertical whenua strands wrap around the building, expressing the concept of Te Ahotanga, the sacred connection from Ngā Whetū, the stars, through the building to the whenua. The transmission of knowledge between people through these threads is experienced throughout the building in the spatial forms and activities within. Central to the design is Te Āhuru Mōwai, the beacon of light that radiates from the centre of the kaupapa. This light was brought to Aotearoa on Te Māmari Waka and also refers to the smouldering fire that is kept alight on the whenua, using coverings of ashes and earth. Te Āhuru Mōwai explains that every person has a burning fire within them, the same fire that our tūpuna had burning 1,000 years ago. We are interconnected through the fire with our tūpuna, just in a different time frame. We are connected through whakapapa, tracing back to our tūpuna who lived on the land. Shout out to Zali from Eclipse, who created these renders, and the rest of the Eclipse and GMC teams for ensuring these concepts will become a reality. It is always a pleasure to work with other architects who bring positive energy and passion into their mahi. āKAU exists as a thread that binds community and design together. Our role is not to compete, rather it is to collaborate, to bring together people and ideas, to weave narratives into form, and we hope in doing so we inspire others to become a similar thread in their own communities.
In the last 10 years, we've worked hard to bring our community's voice to the forefront of our mahi. Because of where we live and the challenges we have around us, we are fighting for any scrap of social equity we can get. Here are some things we believe help in our kaupapa. Being an advocate and catalyst for change means you are holding the pen for your community. Empower them to have opinions and think deeply about what they want, what they need, and its potential. Take time to review and discuss options and fight for their ideas. Establish real relationships and trust. This is going back again and again, not a one-off. They will soon catch on to what needs to happen. Understand the environment around you. Really understand how it functions and why it's like that, and what it is. Reflect this in what you design. To create effective, innovative solutions and solve challenges, listen and evolve the ideas and aspirations of the people connected to community. They are the stakeholders. Working with mokopuna in the design process has many advantages, including the generation of new ideas, establishing community buy-in, and the ability to include multi-generational input. Working with mokopuna removes politics and agendas. If you design for inclusivity with tamariki and differently abled whānau, you make it good for everybody. Communities need to see tangible outcomes and reflections of themselves in their environment.
To close the space today, we would like to take you back to Te Reo Māori on the Streets. In the final part of the project, working with Tūkaha Milne and our beautiful late Whaia Taylor Tualuma, a waiata was created, taking the kupu or words developed by the tamariki through the project. Tapuwai o Rahiri is another outcome of our process. It's an ipu or vessel that celebrates and remembers the mahi of the tamariki of this time.
O Rahiri te tūpuna I puta ai a ngā puhi e luiti aroha ki ona tapuai. A ta titi o hakarongo ki te mātauranga tuku iho ka ere koe ki tamata ke ki ngā whānau o te ao. Kia ahu whenua mai, kia tupu tika kapai, ko tahi tanga me whai, a koera, 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 a koi. Kōrero, mōrio, marama, kamatau, awhina maria, kia rangatinga. Anaki te reo rangatia, kia poho kukupa, kia mahi ka maia, ki te pau, 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 I ngā ua o te kaupapa. Kia ahu whenua mai, kia tupu tika kapai, ko tahi tanga me whai, a koera, 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 a koi. Harikoa, aurere, wai wai kai kapua. Harikoa, aurere, wai wai kai kapua. Kia ahu whenua mai, kia tupu tika kapai, ko tahi tanga me whai, a koera, 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 a koi. Kia ahu whenua mai, kia tupu tika kapai, ko tahi tanga me whai, a koera, 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 a koi.
Thank you so much for adding to the wairua of the space with your display of strength and resilience and persistence. The work you do, we know it's challenging and demanding. It's demanding on your energy, on your time, on the economics, and I'm sure that you are building a practice in Kaikohe which will grow, and its impact will continue to be felt wider and right around the country. Thank you so much for sharing what you shared with us tonight. There is a couple more things that happen tonight. We do want to invite Nick and Ben back up here, and there will be some questions, I'm sure, in the heads of many of you in the audience. So there is time for a little bit of discussion and sharing further. I'll then invite His Excellency, the Italian Ambassador, to effectively close the evening, but also to give you some background on Italian Design Day and other matters that he may wish to bring to this podium. And then after that, it'll be time for a truly Italian refreshments of pizza and wine. And I'm extremely pleased to say that the wine includes Prosecco. So that will be served by trustees and helpers. But with Ben and Nick coming up, we have a couple of microphones. So we want to capture the question for the live stream and the subsequent video. And we've got another mobile microphone for the presenters to use. And you can also use this microphone. I was going to suggest we have chairs, but you might be more comfortable standing. Do we have... Yeah.
There is like a spider web that has come all the way down and landed right here. I really wanted to, can you see it?
You just cut it, Nick.
I forgot to tell you about Boris. It's a chapel spider.
I'm so inspired. They're coming. That's amazing. That's amazing. Good journey.
That's the story.
Yeah.
Tēnā kōrua, tēnā kōrua, anami kia tautau, mō tō kōrero, me mātou, e ātāhua te mahi, tano reira ko Futuna Chapel. Thank you so much. I've got questions for both rōpū. For a beautiful presentation, I was thinking that the common thread was the honona of the work that you're doing with your people in Kaikohe and your tapaturanga and porirua, just the willingness to engage, spend time, and really establish relationship and allow that to come up through the work so that people can see themselves. It's a beautiful thing, that thing about, in terms of dealing with the fracture in humanity, it's the thing that stitches us together. So, is that on? Hello? Can you hear me all right? Yes, I just was struck by that and also inspired, actually, because it's not easy in practice to make those occasions consistently, which is what you guys are doing, and to sustain that and then to allow it to come to fruition. Anyway, ngā whāpai. I was interested in and how, and I was interested in you saying that you got to get engaged by the school directly, which was a great whakaro, because to just break out of that MOE kind of pattern, which is quite constricting. And I just wanted to ask you, have you got enough mahi and opportunities, or is there so much opportunity? And how you sustain your rōpū and yourselves in the dedication that you do.
4-day weeks.
Yeah, we do have 4-day weeks. But just on that financial side, we're very lucky to be supported by Foundation North. Our funding is running out very quickly, but we've been shifting from lots of community-based work and foundation work where we're just working with our communities into commercial work. So we're a lot more commercially stable now. There's still a lot that we still need to shift another gear, and this next 2 years will be into that fully sustainable space, we suspect, or I suspect. And actually working with our whānaus in schools and kuras, once they trust us, then they're in the driving seat and they dictate to MOE what's going to happen.
Yeah, so you're training them. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, it takes a tiny little while. Relationships are quite hard to, but once they see the outputs and they're so incredible. You know, these guys work hard every day of their lives to make sure that the people around them are getting what they need, particularly in those schools. Yeah. And when we go in at Gwena, they're like, oh, here we go again. This is about the 15th person we've seen. But we just sit there, hold the pen, tell them to tell us, and they're like, hang on. Hone Harawira said to us once, this has never happened to us. In 30 years, no one has ever listened to me. And I'm like, oh, we listen to you, Papa Hone, we do. But that was a real compliment. That made me feel so proud. So proud. It's like, Hone Harawira reckons I'm listening to him. That's cool.
Yeah. Kia ora. And in terms of sustaining us as individuals, is that like as a practice? Yeah. Everyone up north seems to have more and more hats on. Joe's on multiple trusts supporting multiple whānau, and there is a real respect to whānau starting at 9, finishing at 3 to pick your kids up. So somehow this incredible practice also supports all of those other facets that you both spoke to. So yeah, just kia ora to that.
Ona mihi kia ora. You guys, the question I had was, I've been doing social housing on the eastern side with Kaikohe, and I've really been struck by how the models that we've got to work with are just wonky for the people that the buildings are for, and these standard plans and things, even just down to not enough wharipaku and the showers are too small and simple things. But I wanted to ask you, how do you feel the design work is influenced by the clients, Māori, Pacifica, people and needs? You touched on a little bit, a place for tūpapaku, like or a tangihanga, but I was just wanted to unpack a little bit more your thoughts around how the buildings might reflect the different sort of social approaches and needs of the clients that are going to be living there.
That's a great question.
It is a great question.
I think from an organisational point of view, it takes remarkable people as the first step. So within Te Āhuru Mōwai or Ngāti Toa, there are some remarkable people that are pushing to do great things. We see a constant tension between the standardised plan or what's kind of there already and what they want to achieve, and that move from what I see as a Western model of town housing, 80 square metres, 2 storeys, bedrooms on top, living down below, to where we need to be building house for successful multi-generational whānau. The gap is huge. You'd even see on our plans the sizes of those floor plans are slightly bigger than what the hard or might ask of. So it takes the people fighting for it at the top, I think, to be able to allow us to do that. Otherwise, we've got no tools to make it happen. So I think we're still even, fighting. The houses are still probably smaller and challenged, but about getting those fundamentals right and thinking that there's not just one solution that fits all, and being able to achieve some things like separation of, bathrooms and kitchens from living spaces and making them big enough for people to use differently than we might otherwise. As far as I know, there was a Māori design guide for housing that existed on the government website, which was taken down and deleted a couple of years ago. But it was a really useful resource in that, but it just kind of disappeared from the space, and I think that there were some lessons in there that we could at least learn. It's not, yeah.
And it's about relationships, like you said, and those particular plans were, we had many design sessions with the property managers, but it's not the people living in the homes. So there probably is a missing link in that, and I think we can learn a lot from your process as well about, and actually, to be honest, we're constantly asking, how can we get around the table to learn about what is actually required with these homes. We're doing a bit of work in Eastern Porirua as well, and that's the same. I mean, we're able to sit down with people living in it and design together, and that has been so helpful to that whole process, and so important. Yeah, so it's a good question.
Thanks, Ben. I've just received an RFP from them, probably a similar one to you guys, and I think,
Yeah.
boy, they're a bit small. Those, those standard sizes that they're talking about. And,
Yeah.
but I feel inspired by all of you to actually go back and keep fighting for just
Yeah, I mean, and that's
the
interesting.
engagement you're talking about, and a bit more generosity of space.
And even with that RFP, I mean, that is a government kind of push, unfortunately, and we've seen the change from that initial work that we've done,
Yeah.
which was more family home led, larger homes, to a push for numbers,
Yeah.
Emergency housing.
Yeah.
They've got a big mountain to climb, so they need to get going.
That's right, yeah.
Ka pai, hei, ngā mihi kia koutou.
Hi guys.
You're on, Chris.
Hello,
Wow.
Chris.
What a blast, what a juxtaposition of stuff, and incredibly inspiring. I want to take everybody back to the time when Nick and Ben presented their final year project. There was a lot of fracture and a lot of chaos and a huge amount of community ambition in both of your projects. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
It was massive. So I'm going to suggest something really outrageous, is that you guys should do a project together.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that, to be fair to First Light, they are doing some amazing stuff which I don't know deeply yet how that is playing out in Porirua, but I'm really excited to hear how that's going to progress. It would be fun if we get to hear a little bit more about that shortly. I probably shouldn't say too much. Do you guys want to speak to that or not?
What are you referring to?
It's probably inappropriate, but that aside, I think, let's put it more broadly, the juxtaposition of cousins from the north and the south collaborating to bring a little bit more community and chaos into the mix would be wicked. Here's to it. And just to round it out, bravissimo.
I think we'll bring it to a close, and before I call on His Excellency, I'd just like to make a very modest contribution to your library at work.
That's very cool, thank you.
Futuna, Life of the Building, available here tonight, $20, but it's a gift. Thank you for your...
Thank you.
And Carolina Izzo is making a presentation also to AKAU Studio and First Light Studio. Did you want to speak?
No, I don't need to say anything, but those two present represent represent the link between Italy and New Zealand. It's made by an Italian New Zealander ceramic designer, artist, and as you will see soon,
Need my 6-year-old son here to get on with it, you know how to do it.
2 jugs, so it's just for your kitchen, but it's what I think is, because I hold the water, the symbols of water is clarity, wise, life. Water represents life. And it's amazing because it's made with local material in Coromandel, but with the design in the head that's quite Italian. So thank you.
Beautiful, thank you.
And now it's my great pleasure to call on His Excellency Cristiano Macipinto to address you all. Thank you.
Buonasera, first of all, buonasera. I'm very happy tonight for many different reasons. The first one being that I have just arrived in this country less than 3 weeks ago, and I've taken my position on the 28th of February, and I have already the opportunity to be in this beautiful place to celebrate the Italian Design Day with you, which is a great occasion because this gives me the possibility to know the many different realities of New Zealand, which are here represented tonight. And the second reason is that being at the conclusion of this event, I don't have to make much of an effort to say something because the 4 friends, I would say, that have spoken before me have said practically 99.9% of what it was needed to say, so it's very difficult for me, being not an expert on anything, because as you know, the definition that one of my most illustrious colleagues in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Rome many years ago gave of a diplomat was that a diplomat is a technician of the generic. So someone who does know probably a little bit of everything without knowing really many things about all the other things that it should be that it should know. But what I would like to add to this is, first of all, that I would like to thank all that have organized this evening tonight. So I would like to thank Carolina Izzo, first of all, who has been instrumental in the organization of this evening. I would like to thank Professor Boarin, who is not here tonight, of the University of Auckland, but has contributed to the organization of not only of this event, but 2 events similar events, one in Auckland and one in Christchurch, which have been held in the previous days. Of course, I want to thank the New Zealand Institute of Architects for helping us and collaborating with us in organizing this evening. I want to thank the Futuna Trust for giving us this wonderful venue, this wonderful location for organizing this event, a location, and I will elaborate a little bit about this later, that really gives you the idea. I think this is one of the best places in which you can have a design day event, that in which I have been, at least, in the last few years. And of course, I would like to thank the AKAU studio and First Light studio for everything that you have said before, because I have the impression that you have really been able to catch the spirit. I would say you have used very much this word spirit, the spirit of the of this 9th edition of the Italian Design Day, which was inequalities, design for a better life, and which is related also to the theme of another event which will start in Italy in the next few weeks, which is an exhibition at the Triennale di Milano, which is an important design museum, one of the most important design museums in Italy, which is about inequalities, how to mend the fractures of humanity. So design for a better life and how to mend the fractures of humanity. Of course, if you mend the fracture of humanity, you have a better life. There is no doubt about that. And how you do this? Through design. I think they have helped us really to understand how we can do it through design. First of all, I will quote here a professor of an Italian university, Professor Luca Fois of the Polytechnic of Milan, which is one of the most important Italian technical universities, architecture, engineering, space engineering, and so on, who has always said that design doesn't mean that you have to do something which is beautiful. The aim of design is to build an object or a building or a construction so that it can do the function that it aims to perform in the best and easiest possible way. So exactly, it is to make our life better and easier, and in so doing, making our life better. And in order to make our life better, I think that there are 4 words that you have used, which are very important. The first word, or the first expression that I will use is spirit of the place, that someone of you has have used, and maybe someone else has said, understand your environment, which in my opinion is more or less the same thing. Because if you want to understand your environment, you understand really the spirit of the place. And if you don't understand the spirit of the place, of course, you cannot build a construction. You cannot build a construction like this. You cannot build a construction like the constructions that our friends were building. Because if you want to do it in a better way, if you want to make the life of the people better, you have to understand the spirit of the place in which the people live. So you have to understand the environment and the spirit of the place. The second thing, the second word that someone has mentioned is dialogue, relationship, dialogue. But I prefer dialogue to relationship. When I have stepped into this chapel, I have taught at least of 5, 6 other different places in 5, 6 different places in the world. So this means that this place, which is a place which is clearly in dialogue with the spirit of this this place, with the tradition, with the Maori cultural tradition, with all the traditions that are established in this area, is also in dialogue with many other traditions, which is the Italian tradition, which is probably the classical tradition, which is the Greek tradition, which is probably the Roman tradition, which is the many different kinds. Because of course the architect of this, John Scott, was for sure a very knowledgeable man, because otherwise you don't build something like this if you don't know. So he was a very knowledgeable man, and so he was someone who was in dialogue himself with many different cultural and architectural traditions which are expressed in this chapel and which make me think to many other places. And I'm sure that you, when you step in this church or in this chapel, you think of many other different places in which you have been. And so the third word is people. Someone has said it's about people first. Of course, because a place like this, a chapel, a house, a school, a library, whatever we built it thinking of the people who have to use this place, who have to gather in this place, who has to perform different kind of functions in this place. So, and this brings me back to this place and takes me to the fourth word. So it's, while I was making a little bit of a research, the word to say a church in Italian is chiesa. And chiesa comes from a Greek word. And the Greek word is ecclesia. And ecclesia means simply assembly. People together. I have learned also that the English word church derives from as a completely different etymology, but at the end, in my opinion, not so different. So, when you gather people in a place, so in an ecclesia, in a church like this, you have a community. You have a community of people who, unspeakably at least, dialogue. They have a relationship, and this relationship can take to a dialogue. So, at the end, we have, and they've helped us to understand, they have made us understand that design is about all this. And when we celebrate the Design Day, and so this capability that Italian designer, Italian architects, and so on have had to promote the Italian design, to make Italian design so important and so loved in the world, because of course sometimes you say Italy is the country of design, and you have fashion, you have objects, you have architecture, you have buildings, you have so many kinds of things that you can conduct under the umbrella, the big umbrella of design. All the Italian people who deal with design are people who are dealing with these words, with these possibilities, and whose aim is really at the end to make our life easier, to make our life better, to understand the spirit of the place, to understand the environment. And so we have to say thanks to these people, because also a very small object, and I was thinking of this at the end, if you think of it, the first designer has been the man who has used the flint to make fire. Because if you think of that stone, that's a tool, that's an object of design. They have designed it. The man who made fire, of course he didn't know that he was a designer, because the most part of the designers, they don't know. They want to make life easier and simpler for us. But that man created that object, as Professor Foyce says, in such a way that that object could perform a certain function in the best possible way. So that was the designer. So at that point, when we celebrate Design Day at the end, we celebrate something which is really in our humanity, and which is in our common humanity, because the fact that this place is in dialogue with many other different places in the earth means that we are all in dialogue, and that we have, all of us, something in common, that we share something in common. So I think that we have really to thank you for being here, to listen to us and to listen especially to them, because they have really opened for us a big world, and so really we would like to thank you for this. I think there was no better way to celebrate the Italian Design Day. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, for someone who's only been in New Zealand for a few weeks, and for your first visit to this place, you have nailed it completely. You've really got it. And as you said, you may know a little bit about a lot of things, but I hope this book will help you know more about the chapel.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that draws us to a close for the formalities and the presentations and the speeches, and thank you to Hugh Tennant and to Chris Moller for their contributions from the floor. Quite spontaneous, I'm sure. I just have a feeling that the Trust, in its work, does wish to support not only the chapel, but also the work of John Scott, and also the work of other practitioners working in that realm. The Trust is a voluntary organisation, and it exists on koha, or donations, and I haven't cleared this with the chair of the Trust, but we do have some new technology in the chapel. It's a donation terminal, and I'm going to ask you to consider making a donation tonight, but it won't be necessarily to the Trust. It'll be going into a fund that the Trust has, and the Trust then gifts that some of that fund to someone, or a place, a person, a practice, to assist them in their mahi. So the donation you make tonight to the Trust will be shared with people like yourselves who are contributing to the understanding of perhaps what is a new architecture. And obviously I'm of a generation, an analogue generation that has moved on and hopefully making way and place for the younger practitioners of architecture and design in this country. So with that, thank you for coming. The donation terminal is on the table over there. It's a very easy device to work. Don't rush for it, but take it in an orderly fashion. And also, if you wish to purchase a book, you could approach me and I can arrange that for you as well. But thank you very much. Sorry about the advertisements, but I thought it was important. Now we are serving, we have pizza. Supreme pizza. Yeah, I was trying to wear the Italian flag tonight, the green and the red and the white, but maybe it's a... maybe it's a margarita pizza. Yeah, so the wine will be circulated around glasses and wine. There is a white wine that's been chilled, a red wine that's been breathing. There's a Prosecco, and there's some non-alcoholic drinks, and there's glasses. So, and the pizzas will be distributed rather than you all rushing to the bar. So if you wish to linger and introduce yourself to other people, there might be a queue to meet His Excellency. Thanks again to the Italian Embassy. Thanks to the technical crew who have filmed and recorded this event, which has gone to live stream to at least 86 people around New Zealand and the world. Also, thank you to the trustees and to the Embassy and to anyone I've missed out. Thank you very much. Remain, enjoy, and we can be here for another hour if we need to be. Thank you very much.